Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now, Saturday, May 20th. Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith with you on this Saturday. Kevin Beach, family stuff going on today, so he'll be back during the week. That's why he was with us on Wednesday when we did our conference finals preview. But good to have Alex back. Alex, it's been a while. How was the Chicago time back there with Mom and everybody back there, flying back home, and now you're back home safe in Minnesota? How's things with you?
Yeah, great. It's been interesting the last couple of days. We've had, a long overtime and then a short overtime in the last two games. So was certainly tired, flying home and then trying to watch that 4 overtime marathon. But just, good hockey all the way around. And last night was no exception as well. There was a fun game between Vegas and Dallas. Off to a nice start once again in a Dallas series. I have Vegas to win game 1. On a money line, but I also have Vegas to win game 1 and Dallas to win the series at plus 400. So we're on the right track there. And of course, now waiting for game 2 of Carolina and Florida. Like I said, it's just been such an odd series heading into it because nobody in the world thought these two teams would be meeting up in the conference final. But it's definitely going to be an interesting series based on what we've seen now in the first, 7 periods of hockey that we've watched.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a fascinating watch tonight in game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals with Florida and Carolina. How do both teams come back tonight, less than 48 hours after one of the longest games they'll ever play? That's going to be a great thing to dissect here on the show today and watch play out tonight in game 2 down in Kakalaki. Before we get into all the hockey action on the ice, including recapping last night, and we'll, of course, preview both games this weekend, today on the show. As usual, for the rest of the season, we're moving forward without a show on Sundays for the rest of the season. So we're going to do everything. We're going to have you covered wall to wall with the weekend action. We'll do game 2, Carolina, Florida, and Dallas, Vegas on the show today. And then we'll be back, of course, on Monday. Before we get into the action on the ice, I have to talk about some action off the ice. And man, it was some action yesterday down at the press conference media area for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, you talk about a soap opera that's developing and a shit show that's unfolding right now. We were wrapping up the Friday show just as Brendan Shanahan's press conference started. And keep in mind, this is a guy that has not been seen and not been heard from for months. Like, you basically needed to put out an APB on Brendan Shanahan. That is how much he was staying out of the spotlight all these months here with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And yesterday, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, that I was hearing someone that was that truthful and forthright and honest and open to the public, to the media, to the fan base, to everybody. This is a team that basically says shit to the fans about stuff that's going on, especially behind the scenes. And here's Brendan Shanahan basically giving you a day-by-day, hour-by-hour timeline of his interactions with Kyle Dubas this week, leading to the decision that he was not going to retain Kyle Dubas as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, and it was surprising to hear just exactly how it went down. The Leafs had already committed, apparently. This is Brendan Shanahan's version. I'd love to hear Kyle's story, because again, when you hear it from Brendan's point of view, let's calm down and let's see if what Dubas says when he finally speaks about this. But Brendan Shanahan said they were going to offer him a contract extension. Basically that, hey, we weren't going to re-sign him and we weren't going to extend him prior to this season. It was the last year of his contract. He knew he was without a contract. He said, we want to see how you do. We want to see how the season goes. Trade deadline comes around. Brendan Shanahan loves the moves Dubas made. And I think a lot of people did. O'Reilly and McCabe and Shen, and he made a lot of great moves. And at that moment, Brendan Shanahan said, I think I'm ready to move forward with you long-term as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And he already had it in his mind right then, trade deadline, that he was going to bring Kyle Dubas back. And then, of course, the playoffs begin. They beat Tampa Bay, and then it's looking even more like he wants Dubas back. They finally get that first-round monkey off their back and win a first-round playoff series. And then, of course, things just went completely down the drain in the second round against Florida, almost pretty much wiping out all the goodwill and all the good vibes and all the positivity stemming from the Tampa Bay series win, the first series win for the franchise in 19 years, basically down the pisser in 5 games later after losing to the Florida Panthers in the second round. So, but at the same time, Brendan Shanahan was thinking about it, was still mulling the decision in his mind, and he had still made up his mind apparently after they got ousted last Friday. It was a week ago today. They got bounced by Florida, that he was ready to bring Kyle Dubas back. And apparently they talked Sunday last weekend, and he said, I want to bring you back. We're going to, finalize the details, get the contract sent to you, and you can sign it if you want back. And apparently Dubas said, yeah, I'm excited at that, and I'm ready to return. And that's that. Apparently he said nothing about some of the personal stress and the mental stress he was going through in the conversation last Sunday with Shanahan, who apparently was taken totally aback that Kyle Dubas on Monday during the Leafs media availability decided to speak to the media. Apparently Brendan Shanahan did not expect that, did not know Dubas was going to do that. And apparently he had said to Dubas on Sunday, while you're mulling this contract decision, if you take the Monday off, don't talk to the media, or I prefer you not to talk to the media, apparently is what Brendan Shanahan was hinting at last Sunday with Kyle. So not only did Kyle not listen to those words, he did talk to the media. And that's when we heard him on Monday just talking about the stress on his family, and he's got to think things over a little bit. And it was just a trying season. It was stressful on him. And it was, apparently a big burden on his family, a lot of emotional stress, which brings up maybe mental health again. That definitely, that's a stressful fucking job. Let's be real. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's a team with a boatload of pressure every year to win. And you've been feeling this pressure as a GM there for 7 years, only winning 1 playoff round. Yeah, you're going to feel the pressure. There's no question. You're going to be scrutinized like you can't fucking believe. But at that moment, that's what took Brendan Shanahan. And I think Brendan said yesterday, that's when he started to sense that, hey, maybe Kyle doesn't want to be back. Or maybe Kyle's not in the right mental frame of mind to be back as the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs, based on what he said, all the stress and all the anguish and all the mental, and emotional toll that this job this season in particular had on not only Kyle Dubas, but his family. So that was Monday. But apparently, they talked throughout the week. Tuesday went by, Wednesday went by, and Brendan Shanahan still, apparently, when they talked Thursday, was ready to give him that contract and say, you know what, we still would like to have you here as the Leaf GM. But again, the days went by. Kyle was quiet. He didn't really say anything what he was going to do. But they talked Thursday. Brendan said, we still want you back, and gave him that contract, offer, sent it to Kyle. So Kyle emails back. He says, I'm in. I'm ready. So on Thursday, it's looking like, all right, this is fait accompli. Brendan wants Kyle back. Kyle wants to be back. Apparently, even with those concerns about how this job has taken a toll from him. But then the bombshell happens after, where apparently after Kyle sends the email to Brendan Shanahan saying, I'm in, I'm ready to return. Apparently not long after that, there's another email from Kyle with basically a quotation or documentation from his agent saying, oh, well, okay, my client Kyle Dubas wants to be back as the GM, but we're going to adjust the contract a little bit, a little more money, a little more incentive, maybe a little more power, maybe a little bit, in the upper management, or of the maybe, who knows, but maybe he was offered more power, an even bigger role, more money. But Kyle apparently and his agent came back to Shanahan after Kyle said, yeah, I'm in, I want to be back. And apparently there was a much bigger gap in money and whatever, incentives, money, power. But anyway, Kyle asked for apparently a lot more than he had already had with the team. And to me, and if you hear Brendan say that came back and there's a wider gap in the financials, and then we had a brief conversation, and that's when I kind of made the decision we were going to go in a different direction. So that is staggering, and staggering that he said that all publicly to everybody. That basically Kyle Dubas got fucking, the translation is Kyle Dubas got fucking greedy in Brendan Shanahan's eyes, and said, and it basically was, we got a deal. You're going to be back. I thought you did a great job. You did. And you've been my guy all these years. Even though it was a second round loss, you did everything in your power to give us this good roster. I want you back. And then it was almost like, well, hold on now. And the fact that he said it was a brief conversation, you know what, how it probably ended up going? He's like, I want you back. But then he's looking at that email from Kyle's agent, says, oh, well, hold on now. If Kyle's going to be back, I want this, I want this, I want this. And that's when Shanahan said, all right, you've been cooling your heels for days. You will talk to the media, and I didn't want you to on Monday, or I advised you maybe not to talk to the media Monday. I advised you not to do that. And now all of a sudden you're coming back to me now with this, you want some extra shit now that you want. And he's like, all right, fuck that. We're done. Get out. You're done. That's honestly what I think. Something like that or close to it is how it went down. And to me, he could say all he wants. That Kyle's great. There's no hard feelings or anything like that. You are not that blunt, okay? You are never, ever that truthful. And you're not giving us a minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day timeline of your interaction with Kyle Dubas if you're not upset with the way things transpired, particularly on his end, okay? And I think that's when Brendan Shanahan made that decision that we're going to go in a different direction. We're going to hire a new GM. And that is just, he obviously and his agent asked for something, and Brendan Shanahan balked at it and said, you know what, that's it. Not a chance you're getting that shit. Not a chance that whatever it is he was asking for in the new contract, not a chance you're getting it. We're done. This is it. This is the last drop. Adios. Thanks for everything you've done, but we're moving on. And I think that's exactly how it went. But Jimmy, as he mentioned yesterday, aren't you supposed to have a little bit of be a little bit sympathetic if someone's basically pouring their soul out Monday in a press conference with mental struggles and emotional struggles, and maybe try to help them through that? Maybe he just thinks too that not only with the extra demands, but this is a guy that may not be in the right frame. Like, if you're going to be the Leafs GM, you got to be on the ball. You got to be sharp. You got to be mentally locked in. You can't be, unfortunately, in a situation where you're stressed, and the stress is going to show up in your work. I know it. As a handicapper. If I'm in a bad losing streak, the stress is going to show up in my work that things aren't going well right now, and I got to take some time off. There's no question. So while I understand what Jimmy's saying, for a team that just completely advertises we care about mental health and helping people in these situations, it doesn't look like you're helping Kyle Dubas, right? You basically canned him, here with this. But at the same time, being a general manager, man, it requires you to be sharp mentally. It requires you to be ultra razor focused, and you almost have to have that steely resolve. And if you've got these emotional and mental struggles and baggage that maybe Kyle does, especially built up after last year, maybe Brendan also felt you can't perform at your best. And if you can't perform at your best on the job, we're going to have to find someone that can. So that's the way it went. It was just surprising to hear someone that, open to the public and the media about the timeline and all the talk back and forth behind the scenes between Dubas and Shanahan. Rarely have I heard a press conference like that. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm actually hearing the gory, juicy details of everything that happened like this. I mean, my goodness, I was taken aback by it. But here we are now. The Leafs, as if they don't have enough to deal with all the free agents, all the people they've got to re-sign. They've got to worry about Matthews and Nylander, who are coming up for new deals next year. They got to worry about all this shit. Oh, and now on top of it, they got to find a new GM to conduct all this business. So, wow, talk about just an absolute merry-go-round and an absolute, it's just a whirlwind right now for this Toronto Maple Leafs team. And they better hustle. And Brendan Shanahan better hustle in terms of getting a general manager in here, because this GM, whoever it is, you talk about a fucking shit ton of things to get done. That I can't even say it loudly enough how much shit this new GM, whoever the fuck it is, has to get done for this Toronto Maple Leafs team, because they've got like 100 things on the to-do list to get done before July 1st, if possible. So that is also the drawback of parting with Dubas. Now you got to mad scramble to get this GM search going and try to conduct it quickly, thoroughly, but also efficiently, and make sure you get it right and make sure you get the guy in here you want and you think is going to do a good job. So crazy stuff yesterday, a bombshell essentially down in Toronto after that Brendan Shanahan presser, Alex. And just I've never heard anything like it. Someone that truthful, spilling the guts to the media about everything that happened behind the scenes, all the conversations, all the chats, all the negotiation. It was wow. I can't believe I heard that publicly.
Yeah. Like I said, it's rare that we get to find those details out firsthand with negotiations in any sport or really any kind of business, to be honest. But I think also that might be slight hyperbole in the sense of it might have saved Kyle Dubas from possibly getting a job elsewhere in the future. I think that it is more toward the fact that he who knows what kind of shit he's had to deal with off ice with getting messages and emails, and like I said, having a family, and when you have this kind of a high pressure job and that high pressure of a city and the franchise, it probably he had to really kind of sit and reevaluate things and realize just how much this is costing him personally, not so much just as a job, but just like I said, your mental well-being. And I think maybe that was the breaking point. I don't think it was necessarily, what everything that Shanahan said. I think Shanahan may be using that money cover up and negotiations cover up to just kind of say that, what, he needed the mental break. But rather than say that and kind of blackball him to the point where he may not get another GM look for quite some time or anything, they just said, oh, we couldn't come to terms on money or something else. That's a little bit easier to say than saying, because like I said, that's a bad look if you're saying, oh, his mental health's bad, so we're firing him. Even though that's I mean, it is technically grounds for termination because, like I said, if you can't deliver with the job you're doing, you have to make changes. But I think that's more of what we're seeing from this. And I think that's the reason why we've heard all the details in such detail. So, it's a tough spot for the Leafs, like I said, especially, when you're looking for a GM and we're talking about, a month away from the draft, a bunch of free agents you've got to resolve. It's a tough spot, but like I said, I think they still got enough people in front with Shanahan at the helm to at least know where they want to go directionally in the next month and a half, and they can get somebody in there, even if it's somewhat temporary. They'll be able to get somebody in to fill that spot. But like I said, that's a big task to fill, especially for whoever gets that full-time role, being the GM in Toronto.
Yeah, definitely. And like I say, they got to move on this quickly. There's no question. And I believe Kyle Dubas, 1,000%. I believe him when he says he's been put through the ringer mentally and emotionally this year. I totally believe him when he says that on Monday. And I believe it when he says his family's felt some of it, like especially with social media around. You don't think Kyle Dubas doesn't read the odd tweet with the people that don't like the job he did? I'm sure he does. I'm sure the family does. And that's obviously a wound to the soul. When you're seeing, someone ripping on you or ripping on your husband in the case of Mrs. Dubas, it's not fun. It's not fun. And I believe him when he said he and his family just felt mentally and emotionally burned out after this season. And you know why I believe him? Do you remember the incident in Tampa Bay during the first round? Kyle Dubas in the press box, going back and forth and, going back and forth with one of the fans there. Apparently, one of the fans said something that he didn't like about a player, maybe about him. And instead of Dubas ignoring it, and I'm sure a lot of GMs probably would just ignore it. It's just some fan heckling you. He went right back at the fan and yelling at him and pointing at him from the press box. That tells me that's a guy that's feeling stress. Right. You don't think that's a guy that's feeling stress when he's doing something like that? You better believe it. Because a lot of people in his position would just brush it off and just ignore it and just who the hell cares what that guy thinks or says. But Kyle Dubas went right back at him, and we saw the footage of it during that Tampa Bay series. There's no doubt he was feeling some fucking stress. There's no doubt. I believe him fully, and I'm sure his family as well. So surprising to hear it end that way, but all of a sudden, a new GM is going to have to end up being to Toronto. And who's it going to be? I know Mark Hunter's in the mix. Brad Treliving apparently is going to get a look. And there's a bunch of others as well. So we'll see.
Stan Bowman.
Stan Bowman. I don't know if that's the best fit for Toronto and Alex.
I don't think it is, but he might pop up somewhere. We're hearing his name, hearing Joe Quenneville's name keep popping up in different things. Can you
imagine that Bowman and Quenneville to the Leafs? Because again, the new GM's going to want his own guy. Bowman gets hired. Bowman brings Quenneville in.
Wouldn't shock me one bit.
Yeah, Toronto Blackhawks coming up here maybe next year. We'll never know. But all right, we'll see how that goes. Last night, another overtime game, and I said on Twitter, how many overtimes tonight? Well, after 4 overtimes on Thursday night, we got an overtime that felt like 4 seconds last night with Vegas and Dallas. Vegas with the overtime win, 4-3 over the Dallas Stars. I'll tell you what, Vegas was the better team last night for much of that. Certainly in the first period. It was stunning to me that first period was 1-0 Dallas, and I'm still upset by that because I'm frustrated because I liked Vegas from a side perspective in game 1 last night, but I didn't bet it the right way. I had the first period and only the first period on the Vegas Golden Knights last night at that plus 175, the Vegas first period puck line, and I thought I deserved to win that because I thought they were the much better team in the first period. Eichel got robbed on a breakaway by Jake Ottinger. He had made some big saves. Vegas was swarming Dallas in that first period, and of course, a late goal by Dallas, and just a harmless shot that ended up getting tipped in by Jason Robertson. And man, that's got to be a good sign for Dallas moving forward. That Jason, I know it was a tip goal. It was, it was not the most prettiest goal from a guy that's got great skill, but just any goal, any puck going in for Jason Robertson's got to feel good for him with how tough these playoffs have been for him so far. But yeah, Vegas was very, very, it was hard luck. It was tough luck that they were down 1-0 after the first period, but they stuck with it. Obviously, they ended up getting that game tied. They ended up taking the lead 2-1 early in the third. Dallas came right back and tied it, and then Vegas got the go-ahead goal after that from Teddy Bluger, 3-2, and it looked like they were going to hold on for the win, but Jamie Benn, with the extra attacker, ends up tying it 3-3, and that's the good news. Even though the first period look on Vegas fell short, we ended up cashing the draw. We got in on that small, and shout out to Jimmy Murphy, who had that as his best bet on the show yesterday, the draw with Vegas Dallas. And I also had over 5.5, and look, that didn't look good at one point in the game, but we got there with the over. It cashed thanks to that tying goal and make it 3-3 and force overtime. And then, of course, Brett Howden on I'm shocked Eichel didn't score just a second before that. But then Brett Howden, just the noticing that Jake Ottinger was scrambling, in the crease there, and just said, I'm putting this puck to the net. I'm going to see if I can bounce it off Ottinger and bank it off him and into the net. He tried it, and it worked. Ottinger was scrambling. He lost his goal stick in the process of trying to find where that puck was, and Brett Howden banks it in off Jake Ottinger for the game winner. And Vegas ends up with game 1 and taking game 1 to get a 1-0 series lead. Now, before Vegas Golden Knights fans get too excited and too happy, let's caution you that Dallas lost game 1 against Minnesota and won the series. Dallas lost game 1 against Seattle and won the series. So obviously, this thing is a long way away from being over. It's only one game, and Dallas has shown that ability to not let a game 1 loss shake them all that much. And keep in mind too, with Dallas as well going. But I will say this about Dallas, even though that's true, Vegas ain't Seattle. Vegas ain't Minnesota. Okay, you're talking about a much better team in my opinion. Maybe much is strong, but a solid, a better team for sure. Vegas compared to Seattle and Minnesota. So it will be a taller challenge to erase this 1-0 deficit compared to the last 2 rounds. That's what I'm trying to say for the Dallas Stars. Alex, what did you think of last night?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. Like I said, going into the series, and I know I haven't, been on a couple of days, so I didn't really talk much about what I liked in this series necessarily. But one of the things I played was Vegas to win game 1, Dallas to win the series. I played that double chance at plus 400, so we're off to a good start there. And it was based on the fact, not about how Dallas had lost the last 2 game 1s, but necessarily how they had lost the first road game in each of the last 2 series. So that was the angle that I was kind of playing in fading Dallas. And I'm happy with the way they lost, if that makes any sense. It wasn't a game that got completely crushed. It wasn't a game where Odger looked bad. It was, just some tough goals and calls could have gone their way. And it just didn't. And that's what I want to see now, backing Dallas in this series. Of course, having Dallas futures, this is a perfect spot for Dallas to bounce back. If you haven't jumped in on Dallas series price at all now, you can grab that. I'm seeing as high as plus 175. I think this is the perfect spot for Dallas. I think this is going to be a zigzag kind of a series early, and then we'll see Dallas pull away late. So, so far so good from the betting aspect. And like I said, seeing Robertson get on the board, that's huge for Dallas, because if he can get hot now in this series, maybe take a little bit of pressure off of Hintz and Pavelski and fill in, and all three of them can kind of get into a rhythm with Ottinger playing well. That's the nucleus you're going to need to win this series and win another series to get the cup. So that's a good sign for Dallas. So it's not the worst loss for Dallas. Glad that I was able to cash and get half of that future already in the books now. So now just hoping for Dallas to bounce back, and it's going to be a good fun series.
Yeah, it definitely is. Both of these series still could be lengthy and could be very, very entertaining and highly competitive, no doubt. And looking forward to seeing the Game 2 matchups this weekend in both the Eastern and Western Conference Final. And we will get into the matchups themselves coming up in just a moment. 69 live viewers, hit the like button. Shout out to our podcast listeners as well. We're coming back to tee up the weekend action, starting with Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight. Florida and Carolina. We'll talk about it right after we hear from Gramco.
Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Gramco. Whether you or your team's game is on the field, screen, racetrack, court, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. Grown by farmers who spent years developing premium hemp genetics, Gramco provides customers with consistent quality Delta 8 THC products ready for any occasion. Gramco currently offers numerous Delta 8 products, including vape cartridges, disposable vapes, pre-rolls, gummies, wake and bake coffee, and more. Gramco offers an enjoyable, legal high delivered discreetly and directly to you. Gramco is also available at many American retailers as well. You can get the best Delta 8 cannabis products on the market shipped quickly and discreetly from Gramco. And if you visit www.thegramco.com, use promo code ICEGUYS, you will get 20% off of every order, and any order that's on the site over $50 will be shipped free with standard shipping. So live elevated with Gramco and check out their wonderful Delta 8 products today.
All right, it is time for our breakdowns here of the weekend matchups here, Game 2. And we will begin tonight with the Saturday night matchup, Florida Panthers, Carolina Hurricanes. Florida leading the series 1-0 after that 4 overtime game winner courtesy of Matthew Tkachuk. We've got Carolina minus 150 here, home favorites in Game 2. Total 5.5 in this one. So actually laying a bigger price, Carolina, here in Game 2. And sometimes you see that. You see that in the NBA too, where a team that loses Game 1 at home in a playoff series, in Game 2 they're laying more points. In this case, Carolina lost Game 1 at home. They're laying a bigger price now here in Game 2. And it's the bounce back theory. It's the desperation theory. It's that you can't go down 2-0 at home and feel you've got a great chance to win this series. And that's probably the case tonight for the Carolina Hurricanes in this one. Now we know the tax that the 4 overtime game had on both of these teams and the minutes that they all had to play. And the question you've got to ask yourself here is, who is feeling it more? The team that won or the team that lost? The team that won, Florida, obviously, huge that they got that win. But Carolina, when you play that long and you don't win that game, it ends up being extremely difficult, to try to bounce back. Here's why I think there could be a little bit of an advantage here for the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. It depends on their mental frame of mind, right? The emotions of it, because that is so crippling to lose like that. You're playing for 7 periods of hockey and you don't win that game. That is tough. And for the Hurricanes players, you've got to pick yourself up off that mat and find a way to just bring your A game tonight here in Game 2. When you're tired, you're mentally and emotionally shot after that game because you lost it. You got to find a way to pick yourself up. And Rod Brindamore's got to try to pick the troops up, and he's the kind of coach I could see him succeeding with that, though. He's very even-keeled. He's very matter-of-fact, and he's been through these playoff wars before. I'm pretty damn sure as a player, Rod Brindamore lost a few playoff overtime heartbreakers. Pretty damn confident in saying that. So if anyone knows what they're going through, it's Rod Brindamore. So I am not saying that I think if you're handicapping this game and you're taking Florida and it's all because you think Carolina's just totally disheveled after Game 1, you got to find another reason, I think, than just that. I think Carolina, they'll pick themselves up. They've got Jordan Stahl, who's been around forever as the captain. They've got a blue line that's very veteran, very experienced. I think they can overcome the disappointment, the anguish, the mental and emotional toll game one took on them in that loss. So I think they'll be better off for it. The thing that would concern me for Florida is they had a couple of their, more than a couple, they had three, Alex, of their key best blue liners. They're probably the three best blue liners they have. Gustav Forsling, Brandon Montour, and Aaron Ekblad. Do you know how many minutes they played in game one? Aaron Ekblad, 52 minutes. Brandon Montour, 57 minutes, almost 58 minutes of ice time in game one, in that 4 overtime game. Gus Forsling, 55 minutes and 41 seconds. That's Ekblad and Montour by far are their top two defensemen. I think Ekblad, I put him probably 3-4 at worst case scenario. You could obviously throw maybe Gudas into that, but I think Forsling can do a little bit more at both ends of the ice than Gudas. So I still say Forsling's probably their third best defenseman. They all played 55 minutes or more in game one. That is a huge amount of ice time. And you talk about the fatigue factor going into game two tonight. It may not get any stronger than what you've got for those three guys. And that concerns me. They're all blue liners. And you've got to be mentally sharp. You got to be physically on top of your game, in the playoffs. I'm worried about the mental and the physical side of it for those three guys tonight. Because they are so important to this Florida blue line. Because when you look at Florida's blue line compared to Carolina's, let's be real, Carolina has a little bit more depth at the back end than Florida. And they had those three guys out there for 55 plus minutes in game one. I'm worried a little about that trio on the blue line, on that defense for the Florida Panthers here tonight in game two. And then you look at the minutes for Carolina in the last game, not nearly as bad. Yeah, and got to give Rod Brindamore credit. The highest amount of ice time for any of the blue liners was Brent Burns at 54 minutes, 43 seconds. After that, you had Jacob Slavin, 51 minutes, 41 seconds. Brady Shea and Brett Pesce, their second pair defensemen, they didn't even crack 50 minutes. Both of them around 48, 47 minutes in game one. So what I'm trying to say here is I think from a blue line perspective, at least the Hurricanes with their, they got more depth on their blue line than Florida, and the ice time dictates that. Way more balanced. And only Brent Burns and Slavin reached over 50 minutes of ice time. Neither of those guys, by the way, even though they made 50 minutes of ice time, Slavin and Burns, neither of those guys close to what Montour, Forsling, and Ekblad had as far as ice time goes. So to me, there could be a little bit more of a physical toll that game one took on the Florida blue line compared to the Carolina blue line. That's the way I see it, based on the ice time. Like that's incredible for Montour in particular. Like 58 minutes. He almost played like a full hockey game, essentially, of course, which is 60 minutes. And he almost played that much. So that's incredible to me. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. That being said, minus 150 is not a price I'm comfortable with here for the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm not. Even though I think there's reasons to think they can bounce back, that ice time angle matters to me quite a bit, especially when you talk about the defense, that you had three key blue liners for Florida play that much. There could be a wear and tear. There could be a hangover effect tonight here in game two. And what do I always say, Alex? When you're tired mentally, you're tired physically, where does it show up? It shows up in the mistakes you make with the puck. Okay. Yep. I think that could definitely happen tonight for both sides, but particularly the Florida Panthers. So I'm going to go with the same bet I cashed with in game one from a side perspective. Carolina first period puck line here in this game. I think in the opening 20 minutes, there is going to be that sense of urgency, feed off the home crowd. I don't buy into this narrative that, they're completely distraught after losing game one in that fashion. It's one game. I think Carolina is veteran enough. The coach is good enough to instill that in the players that it's one game. As painful as it was, it's one fucking hockey game. You've got to win 4 games to win this series and get to the Stanley Cup Finals, not one. That's, I think, what he's got to hammer home to the Hurricanes if I'm Rod Brindamore. I think Carolina has a strong start tonight. I'll go -0.5, plus 165, first period puck line. To be honest with you, if I'm playing the money line full game, I actually lean Florida because I'm not comfortable at -150 in this series. I think it's just too close. This team's playing too well. This team's won 7 straight road playoff games. The Florida Panthers coming into tonight. I am fading that at -150. but I am going to take Carolina first period. The price is better. I like getting that plus money. I think they'll have the strong start. And look, they didn't have a good start in the first period of game one, Carolina, even though they were up 1-0. I thought Florida was their equal in the first period of game one. I think this is definitely a game where Carolina carries the play in game two, first period, like they often do. We often see them have the puck more, have more offensive zone time, O-zone time, have more shots on goal, have more chances. I think you're going to see that in the first period tonight. So Carolina first period puck line, and I'm definitely jumping on over 5.5 tonight. This is a good over spot for me, even though both goalies are good. Anderson is, let's be honest with Anderson. I've never seen Anderson play that well in a very long time. I thought he was incredible, Alex, in that overtime, especially because Florida got stronger as overtime went on, and Freddie Anderson had to make a couple of tremendous stops to keep that thing going for as long as it did. But this is a guy that's had a lot of injuries. He's played a lot of hockey and a lot of playoff hockey, and he's now going to be 34 very soon. And playing that long in a game like that, that could be a reverberating effect. And even goalie Bob, for as well as he's been, and he's been just spectacular going back to the Boston series at the end. And we know he was amazing against Toronto as well. Bobrovsky's in his mid-30s. These are two goalies in their mid-30s that have played a lot of hockey over the years, and they're coming off a 4-overtime marathon. A lot of pucks they faced. What were the shots on goal? Like 60-58 or something like that? They both faced a ton of shots. I think these goalies might be feeling a little wear and tear and fatigue. I think these defensemen in front of these two goalies are going to make mistakes because they're a little, again, not as physically and mentally sharp coming off a game like that. And I think that's going to fuel the offense of both of these teams here in game two tonight. So I will also look over 5.5 here with Florida and Carolina -115 to -120 in this game. Alex, game two, Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I'm keeping it simple. I'm going to go with that first period puck line with Carolina. Like I said, they need to come out hot in this first period, and that's the way they got to look at it. You got to put everything in game one aside. You have to start fresh here. Start off with a much better opening period. Like I said, Florida dominated most of that first, even though Carolina had the lead. So now, Carolina can kind of build upon that. Okay, we had the lead in that first period, but we didn't play our best hockey. Now, if we just play a little bit better, like I said, take advantage of what could be a tired Florida blue line and like I said, goaltending at both ends. That fatigue still might be there early. I think Carolina's solid enough to jump out of there and get a lead heading into the locker room after 20 minutes. So that's the only thing I'm looking at here. I don't want anything to do with a side, even if I like something beforehand. When you have a 3 or 4 overtime game, something that long, it's best to kind of just stay away from that side and just evaluate what happens in game and make adjustments if necessary.
Yeah. I like that first period puck line as well with Carolina and full game over 5.5. Those are the two pregame bets for me in this game. Yeah, I'm just looking at the numbers right now. 65 shots on goal for Carolina, 60 for Florida in game one. We saw 57 saves from Freddie Anderson, 63 saves from Sergei Bobrovsky. In game one. I think it's a great over spot. I really do. I mean, when I look at this game, I think, to me, both goalies faced a shit ton of shots, a shit ton of rubber. The blue liners, just many of them, especially on the Florida side, 50 minutes, 58 in the case of Montour. Definitely, you look at it, that's a lot. And that's why I think there's going to be more mistakes. And I can't imagine these goalies being as sharp tonight, coming off that kind of workload and those kind of minutes and all that rubber they faced and all that time out there in between the pipes. So that's why. And again, we're not asking for a 6.5 here with this total. It's only 5.5. We're not asking for a ton, and I think there's reasons to think this game can get up and over that total here tonight. Here's another thing I'm going to be looking to do. If Carolina first period puck line cashes in that first period, like let's say they're up 1-0, they're up 2-0, I'm probably going to look at some kind of draw or Florida split live in game, because the one thing I will say about Florida, they will never go away. They just won't. Like, I'm sure they're feeling it physically after game one, especially those 3 blue liners I mentioned. But even if they're trailing after the first period tonight, they just don't go away. They don't quit. They don't quit on any game. And we saw them get back into it in game one after being down 1-0 after the first period. So that's probably an approach I will look for here. If Carolina's leading after the first, which of course I'm hoping for, Alex is hoping for, Florida and or draw, and maybe a little on both. live bet in the first intermission. That is probably something I'm going to look at here in this game tonight. And then as far as props go, look, I've got a lot of series props, but I mean, Carter Verhaeghe, man, you just got to think if Florida's going to score goals, you got to start and look at him right now with what he's been doing for the Panthers. Tkachuk, after being without a goal against Toronto, got back on the score sheet in game 1 with the overtime winner. But definitely Carter Verhaeghe's I think the best option right now. He's just been consistent. He's been rock solid here for the Florida Panthers throughout these playoffs. On the Carolina side, Sebastian Aho, I think I could see him finding the back of the net plus 180 tonight. Marty Necas, by the way, Marty Necas was shooting the puck a shit ton the last game. I think his shots on goal prop is worth a look too. Over 2.5, minus 150. To get a point, he's minus 145. To score a goal, plus 215. So anything Marty Necas makes sense to me tonight as well in this game. You know who's someone that's actually been really involved more offensively, shooting the puck? And of course, he's playing, a top 6 role now in this group, and up there with Barkov, who finally got on the score sheet the other night. Anthony Duclair, man. Over 2 shots on goal for him. It's only 1.5. And he's starting to shoot the puck more. He's plus 108 to get a point. If you want to take a little bargain bin shot on the goal prop, plus 340. I mean, Anthony Duclair has definitely been way more noticeable and more involved in the offense and in the ozone attack for the Florida Panthers here in recent games. So definitely someone to consider as well. Stefan Nason, it seems like he scores most of his goals at home. I'm starting to notice that with Stefan Nason. Does a lot of his damage at home. He's a lot more quiet on the road, but he's at home tonight. So Stefan Nason, not a bad option as well for the Carolina Hurricanes as far as player props go in this one tonight. All right, let's turn our attention to Sunday, where we have game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. Note the time. This is not a night game. It's an afternoon game for television purposes. ABC wants, a weekend NHL playoff game. And obviously, if it's going to be a non-Stanley Cup Finals playoff game on ABC, it's got to be in the afternoon, because apparently ABC just won't put a night game on unless it's the Stanley Cup Finals. So it's on ABC. It's at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific tomorrow. Dallas Stars, Vegas Golden Knights, a Sunday afternoon matinee affair. Vegas, minus 125 home favorites, 5.5 the total. Vegas with the 1-0 series lead, of course, after the game 1 victory over the Dallas Stars. So we'll see how now this will be interesting here. Day game. Does that help one team over another? I think just off the top of my head, Dallas more than likely played a lot more day games during the regular season than the Vegas Golden Knights. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one goes. Yeah, exactly. Rich H talking about Duclair and Nason. You want guys that are shooting the puck if you're going to take props, not only shots on goal, but goal props, point props. You want players that are firing the puck at the net, getting their chances, and Duclair and Nason in that Florida-Carolina series. Exactly. That's why their props appeal to me here tonight in game 2. But getting back to Dallas-Vegas, Vegas got the win, obviously, in game 1. Dallas didn't play, I think, anywhere close to their best. I thought they were badly outplayed in the first, even though they were up 1-0. I thought they were better in the second, but still, Vegas, I thought, even had the better play in the second overall. Third period, finally, Dallas, I think, was the better team in the third. That was by far Dallas's best period of the hockey game. They ended up tying the game. But for the course of the 60 minutes, I still think Vegas won 2 of the 3 periods in regulation time. So, Dallas can play better. Obviously, we have Dallas off a loss, a Dallas team that has not yet lost 2 consecutive games here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I could probably end this analysis, Alex, with bounce back Ottinger and call it a day. But how on earth do you have the stones to bet against him off a loss right now, or this team off a loss at the moment? Going back to the regular season, what is it now? 23-4 for Jake Ottinger off a loss. I believe after this was an overtime loss, so scratch that. But I think he's undefeated after a regulation loss this year, Jake Ottinger. This is an overtime loss, so that doesn't apply to this because they lost an OT in game 1. But still, any loss, regulation, overtime, shootout loss, Jake Ottinger, 23-4, after a loss this year for the Dallas Stars. That's part of the reason why I like Dallas here, plus 105. But part of it is, look, I don't think we got Dallas's best, especially in the first 2 periods. still managed to find a way to have a chance to win that game and get it to overtime, which has to be looked at as a positive. There it is. Jarek Rubel, 15-0 after a regulation loss. And I've got it at 23-4.
23, 1-4.
After any loss this year for Jake Ottinger. So, and again, this Dallas team, like I truly don't think they played anywhere close to their best, and yet they still somehow got that game to overtime. That's got to be looked at as a positive for the Dallas Stars. So yeah, I mean, Dallas plus 105 for sure. I knew I'd be on it the moment that game ended. I'm like, here's Dallas off a loss. Here's Jake Ottinger off a loss where he's almost impenetrable. I mean, look what he did against Seattle, after they lost game 6. He nearly shut out the Kraken. It was a late goal with 5 seconds left, but Dallas had won the game already by that point. He's just been spectacular off a loss. There's no doubt. I don't know what it is, but there's just something in Jake Ottinger, the way he's wired, and that he just gets the best out of himself after a bad game or a loss or a setback. He just puts himself in the frame of mind where I'm not going to lose again, and I'm not going to play like that again. And he's just been spectacular in these spots for the Dallas Stars. I think it's encouraging for Dallas that Jason Robertson had a 2-point night, a goal and an assist, finally saw the puck go in. Does that open the floodgates for Jason Robertson here moving forward? I'm going to take a guess. And I'm kind of hedging my bets here a little bit because I faded Jason Robertson in some of these series props, and I mentioned it on Wednesday. I'm a little worried about it now. Maybe he's going to get going now. So I'm going to take Jason Robertson to get a goal here on Sunday's game 2. Kind of hedging my series bets because if he scores, I'll cash the prop for this game, but it'll protect me against some of these series bets I made against Jason Robertson. So Robertson with Hintz and Pavelski, and Hintz obviously scores again. 2 points for Pavelski, and I have Pavelski to be top goal and top point scorer in this series. So 2 points for Joe Pavelski for Dallas in game 1, despite the loss. I was very happy to see that. Definitely, I would say props with any of those 3 guys are worth a look in this game. You've got Marchment, Domi, Sagan, very capable second line. Ben, Johnston, and Dodonov as a third line is pretty damn impressive. But Vegas can match them. I love Vegas's 1 through 4. Vegas, I still think I favor them on the blue line. But to me, I like Dallas here in a bounce-back situation. Plus 105, pretty solid price that you're getting with the Dallas Stars. This is going to be tougher to even the series against Vegas compared to, say, Seattle and Minnesota for the Dallas Stars in the first 2 rounds. But I definitely think Jake Ottinger, like I say, will make the adjustments. Jarek's got a great, observation there. Kept going blocker side on Ottinger. So going to be interesting to see. He's a good adjustments type of goalie as well. There's no question in terms of CNA, where I was off my game a little bit the last game and then bounces back. No question. So Dallas for me, plus 105. Like I say, pretty impressive that for as poorly as things went, especially early in the game for Dallas, that they were still 1 shot away from winning that game in overtime. So Stars probably play better. I am fully confident their goalie will play better because he always does in these spots. So Dallas plus 105 for me. I was on the over in game 1. I still think push comes to shove. This could be like Dallas-Seattle a little bit where that total is just at 5.5 the whole series. And it's just, a little bit undervalued and you could see multiple overs, but I don't like it as much because obviously in these games where Jake Ottinger usually bounces back, we have seen some unders. Look at the game 7, obviously, with Dallas and Seattle. So I don't love the over as much. I just lean that way here for game 2. My primary bet is obviously the Stars here, plus 105. And I wouldn't even talk anyone out of a Stars first period puck line potentially to maybe get on the score sheet early and maybe also have the lead after the first 20 minutes. Alex, game 2, Western Conference Finals, a little daytime matinee action on Sunday, Dallas, Vegas.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Dallas has played more day games during the regular season than Vegas. I think this is kind of a edge slightly to Dallas, even though they're on the road. But I think that early start time for Vegas could be slightly tricky, and I think Dallas would be able to navigate that. And like I said, I love Vegas in game 1, and I was hinging on, like I said, looking at Dallas with here in game 2. So getting plus 105, I would grab that as soon as they popped up, and I would grab that now because before puck drop, this will probably flip, and I could see where Dallas might end up possibly being favored in the spot here. Like I said, Ottinger, I think people are just now starting to realize Ottinger's, one of those top-tier goalies off of a loss, and the more that gets talked about, the more people will be tracking it and following that and looking to back that. So I'm going with Dallas in game 2 and just sticking with everything else that I have futures-wise. That's the only thing I'm just going to add for right now.
it's uncanny too that when the team needs a win, and obviously Dallas would really like a win. I mean, they're even if they somehow lose for the first time in the playoffs, 2 in a row, and go down 2-0 going back to Dallas, they're definitely still not out of it. They're still they could still come back and win the series, but they obviously like to get a split here in Vegas, and certainly the track record is they've been great off a loss. But at the same point in time, I'm gonna stick to it with Pavelski here. Find a way to bet some Pavelski props. It seems like when a team needs a win in a very important game in the postseason, that guy just finds a way to make it happen, make an impact, score a big goal, make a big play. So it's uncanny that when the team needs him the most, he rises to the occasion. So any Joe Pavelski props, definitely I would look toward that potentially in this one for sure. We'll see how it goes. Both teams to score first period and for Rich. See, I'm not crazy about that because Ottinger, I think, always plays so well after a game. I could see him not giving up anything in the first period, but you're definitely going to get a good price with that. No doubt about that if you like that first period, both teams to score. But very interesting matchup there, game 2 tomorrow. Dallas undefeated this year after a playoff loss. We'll see if they can keep that streak going. But like I said, keeping it going here against Vegas is going to be a lot more difficult than it was in the first 2 rounds for the Dallas Stars. All right, great stuff. That is the weekend conference final betting previews right there. Game 2 of the Eastern and the Western Conference Finals. A reminder, we have no more shows on Sundays for the rest of the season, but we will be back on Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Looking forward to that. We have a busy week of guests as well. We've got player guests the next 3 shows, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We have Nick Minerva joining us Monday. We've got Nikita Kashersky's back, one of our favorites on Tuesday. And finally, Alex is going to have a chance to chat with him as well here. And also going to have Sammy P joining us on Tuesday. So we're going to have 2 guests joining us on the Tuesday show. Looking forward to that. And then we got another guest Wednesday. So excited about that. And again, also excited about not 1, but 2 conference finals betcasts coming up this week. Looking forward to that. We've got Wednesday, game number 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Florida Panthers and Carolina Hurricanes. That's going to be Wednesday, May the 24th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to have the next betcast. I'm just going to put it up. There we go. Wednesday, May 24th, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Note the start time. All our betcasts have been 7 p.m. Well, of course, this is 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern because that's when the game begins. So game 4, Florida, Carolina, Wednesday night, May 24th. Make sure you join us for that. Live betting and commentary at me, Alex, and all of our viewers and listeners that join us. Drinking Encourage, DM me at Bobano on Twitter or email bobano350@gmail.com to request a spot on the betcast, and we will send you the link before it begins. And in addition to that Wednesday betcast, we also have next Saturday, May 27, 8 p.m. Eastern, which will be game 5 of the Western Conference Finals, Dallas and Vegas, ABC primetime game next Saturday night. So make sure you join us for that one as well. So 2 conference finals betcasts coming up in the next week right here on the Ice Guys. Definitely looking forward to that. All right, great stuff. Make sure you're checking out patreon.com/Ice Guys. Just $10 a month. Goalie charts, totals charts, power ratings, daily Ice Guys show betting card, bonus video content. Got another one I'm uploading in terms of the bonus video content this afternoon. So make sure you check that out. Patreon.com/Ice Guys. Just $10 a month.
Also, check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. 15% off of everything for the next 4 days. As soon as you go to the site, just click that link right on top and redeem that coupon, and you can get 15% off everything. We got shirts, we got caps. I think everything's in stock right now, too. So it's a great time to shop there. Check out the Ice Guys store. That's iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
I think Rich H is already confirming that he's in for the betcast on Wednesday night. He says no work Wednesday. Woohoo. So there you go.
Right.
Probably will be seeing Rich H then in the betcast on Wednesday night. All right, great stuff. 90 viewers, hit the like button. Everyone on the podcast listening, we appreciate you tuning in as well. Back to wrap up the show with best bets right after we hear from Manscaped. Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping. with the promo code ICE Guys. That's promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, it's about 14 million balls that you can preserve. The Performance Package 4.0 is the complete accessory package to take care of everything that is required. You've got, of course, the Lawnmower 4.0. Takes care of your facial hair and among other things. You've got, of course, the Weed Whacker. I'm approaching 40. Nose hair has become a major issue. It pisses the hell out of me. I need to take care of that shit, and the Weed Whacker can help you do that. Both of these products, waterproof and a 4000K LED spotlight for a more precise shave. And you'll also be able to take care of those delicate areas with the ball toner, with the ball deodorant, keep you smelling good, looking good, and feeling good down in the nether regions. This complete Performance Package 4.0 will take care of everything for you, for all you guys out there, and it's courtesy of our good friends at manscaped.com. So get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use promo code ICEGUYS. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, it is time for best bets to wrap things up for our weekend edition of the Ice Guys. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Yeah, let's go with tomorrow. Dallas Stars plus 105 in game 2. Like I said, Ottinger has been absolutely remarkable off of a loss. This Dallas team showed the mark of resiliency, even forcing overtime in game 1. It wasn't that bad of a loss. I think they'll be able to bounce back and get the job done and even this series up. So Dallas Stars plus 105 in game 2 on Sunday afternoon. That's my best bet for the weekend.
All right, Dallas plus 105 against Vegas in game 2, Sunday afternoon, Western Conference Finals. Best bet for Alex B. Smith. My best bet, I'm going to go to the game tonight. Florida, Carolina on this Saturday night. Over 5.5, minus 115. Bet Online's got that price with it. We're not asking for a shootout. What we're asking for is both defenses to be tired. You're talking about 3 of the best blue liners on the Florida Panthers that played 55 or more minutes in game 1. That could lead to physical and mental mistakes that you don't normally see from them coming off that kind of workload. Carolina could pounce on that. And even on the flip side, for as good as Carolina's blue line is, you could see a few more mistakes in their game with the puck coming off all the amount of time they spent on the ice in game 1 in that 4 overtime marathon. And I don't expect either goalie to be nearly as sharp tonight either, Freddie Anderson or Sergei Bobrovsky in this game. And I think it leads to a few more goals than expected. Let's go with the over in game 2 tonight. Eastern Conference Finals, Florida, Carolina, over 5.5, minus 115 for my best bet. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And again, we're back Monday for the next edition of the show. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturdays at noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast if you can't watch the show live. Special shout out to Jarek Rubel. I retweeted a couple of his play-by-play clips from last night's Game 1, Vegas-Dallas. Another great job, Jarek, as we keep on pushing to get him to the National Hockey League at some point in his broadcasting career. Great stuff. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great weekend. Enjoy Game 2 of the conference finals. And we'll be back with you on Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.